criminal justice. So we support people in many areas. Anthony Brown.
Thank you, co-founder Glenda Andrew. I remember a few years ago we'd started Windrush Defenders Legal Community Interest Company as a group that was to help people who had been impacted. And Glenda came over to me from Preston because she'd been looking for some support and she'd heard about us at the Windrush Millennium Centre in Manchester, so she came along with Sakina to see if she could get help for Sakina's daughter. And we just got to talking, and out of the blue, Glenda just said, "We'd like you to be our chairman." And so that's how the relationship started. And then we started working together. I remember when the Home Office wanted to invite people who had been working with the schemes to help people to come and tell them, what was happening and how was the scheme working, because the Windrush scheme was a new scheme that they put in place to give people back their status and their documents. And Glenda says, "Are you coming? They're going to pay our train fare." And I said to Glenda, "The last time they wanted to pay my fare to go anywhere was to deport me." She said, "Stop it, you're coming." So we went, and the relationship was developed between the Home Office and groups around the country. We set up an organisation called Windrush National Organisation, and we have groups around the country that's represented within that. And one of the things that we found was that as we talked to people about their situation when they were looking to apply for their status or to apply for compensation, we found that the impact on people varied. It's not only that they couldn't go to the doctors or they lost their jobs or other things, it affected things around health, it affected things around criminal justice. One particular person, his parents had been sent back, and he was only a young 16-year-old and got himself into the wrong company without that structure there and ended up in the criminal justice system. So it's affected the community in various ways. So there's been a ripple effect. Every time somebody's been impacted in whatever way, it's had a ripple effect amongst the family and amongst the community. So we came up with a framework where we thought that this could be addressed, because the compensation was only going to individuals, and we were getting information that it was affecting the whole community. So we wrote to Patel at the time, telling her all our findings, because they wanted to know how things were going. So we set this all out. We had a number of meetings on Zoom. We found out what Zoom was at that time. And we put together this letter to Priti Patel to tell her, look, these are problems, and we called it burning work, the work that we thought needed to be done to address those problems. And we said, the law needed to be changed because it's the law that's created all these problems, and you haven't changed the law, so you need to stop more harm happening, and then we can help repair the harm that's there. Anyway, she wrote a nice letter back thanking us for the work that we were doing, but basically they were going to carry on. We was just flabbergasted because we put all this time and effort into this letter. So we decided that we were going to go to the courts. So we applied for additional review, take the Home Office to court, and we had our day in court eventually. And the judge went over all the evidence, put the Home Office through their paces. They had to be accountable to the judge. And it was quite interesting to see the British Constitution at work, because I'd always heard about the people being sovereign. I couldn't understand what that meant. If you were sovereign, you could hold the government to account. But when it came to judicial review, that's exactly what we were doing. We had applied to the sovereign to appoint a judge to hold the government to account. So we really felt sovereign then. We learned what sovereign meant then. And but the judge said, look, you've got a good case, but it's not the Home Office that makes the laws, it's Parliament. You've got to go to Parliament. So Glenda said, right, we're going to lay siege to Parliament then. And so since then we've been lobbying MPs, and we've produced what we call a Windrush Act that we say is what needs to be done, because we think that it's no use just complaining to the politicians. You know, they'll listen to you and pat you on the head and then nothing will happen. So what we've done is we've produced a booklet called the Windrush Act Briefing Document, and this tells politicians what it is that we'd like to see, what laws we'd like to change, and then what we'd like to see done with the compensation scheme. So the compensation scheme, as I said, is only going to individuals, but there's been a ripple effect in the community. So what we're saying is the government collects data on all these race disparities in health, education. They can tell you, look, you know, with African Caribbean students, only 8% of them are achieving 3 A-levels. And they'll tell you that other British children, 11% of them are achieving. Asians, 17%, Chinese, 25%. And you say, why are we at the bottom? You know, we need a new manager to get us up the league table. So, we want the law changed so that those disparities will be tackled. And I was fortunate this week to be invited to Downing Street for marking Windrush Day by the Prime Minister, and he made one of his speeches. He was saying that, as part of his speech, that the community needed to push the government more to do things, and the community needed to work with the government to govern. I thought, I don't need a second invitation. Here's something I prepared earlier. And I gave him a copy of this. He promised to read it, but again, you know, we're not sure what will happen. But the new government coming in has taken a new approach. I feel that over the last 6-7 months they've been in listening mode. I expect that, you know, not much will happen until after the recess, but that's when we're looking to see, you know, what work we can get done. As a community, we've always done burning work. If the government wants to work with us, that's fine. If not, we'll just carry on as we've done all the time.
Fantastic, thank you. Is there any, if anybody's got any questions to Anthony about the Windrush work, about Windrush, please ask, or myself. It's a great opportunity to get this guy brain. Okay.
I remember when you came to Preston City Council and you spoke to a number of councillors. Do you remember? Because I sat in on that.
Yes.
And at the time then you said that there was such a backlog in the compensation claims and that you were bringing extra staff into health and you were hoping that it would speed up. So did that actually happen? Is the compensation claims, are they being dealt with? Are they being dealt with quicker? Or is it still the same old, but nothing has really moved on?
It's not the same. Things have been implemented, new policies, new strategies have been implemented. So before, you know, in the beginning, it used to take some people 18 months, 2 years to be compensated. Now, within 6 weeks, people are getting a letter with an offer of at least £10,000, and then whilst they assess the full claim, and then the rest of it will come. But so they've brought down the time, but then there are new issues that have arisen in that I went to the launch of the report called Justice. There's an organisation called Justice, and they've launched a new report about the compensation scheme. And at that meeting this week in Parliament, that said that because there's no legal support for claimants, a lot of the claims that are being paid are less than what claimants should get. So some people they've gone in, claimed, and the government has offered them nothing. They've then gone to a law centre and they've got a 6-figure sum. So that is just astonishing. And it wasn't just one or an odd case.
No, it's
There are many cases. So there's that problem. There's also the problem of the re-traumatising of clients because there's no legal buffer. You know, your lawyer usually acts on your behalf and deals with all the questions, and if they have to resubmit information, it's easy for them because they've got it all logged and everything. When it's an individual, you ask them again what you've asked them before, and it's as if they're reliving the trauma all over again. So there's that difficulty. So yes, there have been steps made forward, but then there are still problems with the compensation scheme. But from our perspective, the compensation scheme is a narrow aspect of the whole thing, and there's lots of people in that space saying to the government, this is what you should be doing and so on, but there's still thousands of people in the country living in limbo who have applied to get their status back, give them papers to say they are living here legally, and they've been refused. So that means that they're still sofa surfing, or just can't get a house, can't do anything without that. Their children can't go into higher education. So everybody's just living in, but they can't work, and there's thousands of people like that. So, and there's nobody talking about changing the law except us. So we've just, been a little band that's out there mithering the politicians and the government to change the law, because we think it's a no-brainer. If you've created a law that's created all these problems, surely the first step ought to be, okay, let's change the law. With the last government, there was a lot of resistance to us engaging with them, as I told you about the letter. But there was other times when we tried to see them and they didn't let us in. We went to their party conference to try to meet with some of their
They came to Freetalk.
Yeah, they came on. The civil servants did, but when we tried to reach out to the politicians, because they're the ones that are going to change the law, we found that they were quite reluctant to engage. But we keep going, but with this government, it's quite different. I think I've seen
Is this the reset?
Yeah. So what's involved in the reset is that the Home Secretary, Vet Cooper, made a parliamentary statement, which he called the reset, and it involves dealing with some of the recommendations that the Windrush Lessons Learned Review said should be carried out by the government. So Wendy Williams, when the Windrush scandal first broke, she did this investigation at the Home Office, and she came up with 30 recommendations. And the government, before Parliament, made a commitment that they were going to accept and implement all 30. But then, as time went on, they reneged on 3, and they said they weren't doing it. So, some organisations took the government to court. One of the court said, they should be doing. But the new government came into office and said, okay, we make a commitment as a reset that we're going to honour all of the recommendations. We're going to do these 3. So they've re-established what they call a Windrush unit in the Home Office that reviews the work of the Home Office, looks at changing the culture and making sure that a scandal like this will not happen again. They've appointed a new Windrush Commissioner. So yesterday we heard that it was going to be one of us, one of our network. So you remember me mentioning that we set up the Windrush National Organisation. The Vice Chair is called Clive Foster, Reverend Clive Foster. He's been appointed as the new Windrush Commissioner. We've been working with him for a few years now, so we know we've been working with him. We know Clive, and obviously we think it's a good choice. But
Sounds like it
I
is.
know that in any appointment, not everybody's going to agree, and you're always going to get brickbats thrown at you. So but I think he's made of sterner stuff, and he can deal with all of that. So we're happy with that. And but what we're pressing for is what we're calling a continuous community improvement plan, because we saw that the Home Office had a continuous improvement plan, and we said, hang on a minute, how is it that the organisation that caused the damage gets to improve, and the community that was damaged doesn't get an improvement plan? So we decided that that's the next step, that we're going to get councils together, get communities together, get the government together, come up with our own community improvement, because we know best what we need, but we don't know the pathways in which that can be achieved through the government and local authorities.
And that'd be great, I think, for Preston.
Yeah.
Because we haven't got that here yet. And it's a shame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really is a shame. And I'm hoping that from today, because you're here, Mayor, you're new, you're new, that we can take this forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here as well. I know the
True.
leader couldn't be here, but we need to start doing something with our community, with Windrush, going forward.
To be fair, Preston was the first local authority to talk to us about burden work back in the COVID time.
Yeah.
We did it all on Zoom.
Yeah.
But then, since that's
Burnout.
been lifted and people have been burnt out, we've not got back into dialogue. So this could be a great opportunity to get that discussion going again. So we know that, there is a willingness, but it's just that people haven't, sort of reorientated themselves with all the new developments and so on. So with a new government, new initiative, a new drive, I think it's the right time to start that discussion again and see how, we can get the minister down here, talk to the
Yeah,
Preston
she's
Council.
waiting. She's waiting for that invitation.
Yeah,
See, man.
and see how we can structure something that we can then do not only in Preston but Manchester and all around the country, because all these communities have been impacted in similar ways, through health, criminal justice and so on. So we may as well have a similar framework to manage all of this. I think that's what's been lacking from what I've observed. Yes, you can make statements in Parliament, you can make laws and stuff, but then who delivers it? You've got local authorities to do the core work of the government, but then what about those communities that are excluded or missed, and who's making sure that they're at the table? So, they call them hard to reach communities. They're going to say, we're going to make it easier to reach now because we're here.
I think it's important that you do it now.
Yeah.
Because local government reorganisation might come in, and Preston might become part of another local authority. It might be part of, and we don't know where it's going quite yet. It could be part of Lancaster and Ribble Valley. It could be, or it could be part of Children's Soccer. We don't know. But I think you need to start this, carry on with this work, but really ramp it up now.
Yes.
Before a lot of changes come, and it's another priority down the list again, because the organisation will be really large. So I think we need to do
If I
something.
could use your office to push the discussion in Preston, and have meetings and so on, we can
Thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely.
definitely move.
What's the role of the commissioner then? What will they do? I'm not sure what their role
So
is.
they'll advise the government on the needs and what the scheme needs to improve. So I think they're more focused on the compensation and how they can improve that,
I think it's,
because that's been the talk in Parliament
I think it's
all
only
the time. But as I say, our agenda is a bit broader than that. It includes what the Commissioner will be doing in compensation, but if we started to talk to him about criminal justice, about education and stuff, he'll say, hang on a minute, I've got enough to do with compensation. Yeah.
But you're absolutely right, that commitment now, that reset, that commissioner, that needs to go along
Yeah.
down to community level.
Precisely.
Yeah, we just need to keep that.
Yeah, it's a start. I mean, we've got to get hold of it and build on it.
Yeah.
Just say something you all like on TikTok.
Hello, TikTok.
You're live on TikTok now.
All right, thank you.
Just to let you know, we've got 9,000 viewers on it. Wow. And everyone on these is putting comments on to say hi.
Okay, thank you.
Say hi.
Hi, thank you.
Live on TikTok, it's got over 9,000 views.
In the UK,
Yeah.
try and encourage them to engage with the training work program and see how in their area
Where did you
can
originally
get to work with
Yes.
or their institution to be affected by all these
Yeah.
things, but then there's not the kind of framework to work with it. So your MP is the person to contact and want to support
Manchester.
you. Let
Born
you
and
know
bred in
that,
Manchester. Parents from Jamaica.
we're on the web. Or the website.
I don't impress my daughter goes to uni here, but because I'm here all the time, but she's not. She
Through the
came as well.
website,
So I look after her.
email,
So
the team,
I'm just waiting for her to come. No, she's in uni, it's just up the road. I stay with her. But she gets ill and sometimes she can't get out of bed, so I come out. I'm mostly seeing her. But she
looking forward to your support.
got so involved. I forget to tell
What's his
her.
mine?
That's my email address, just drop me It's my generation, it's kind of, or even the generation of the just a mishmash of everything.